Hey guys, it is me, the Emerald Soldier. Welcome back to another video where today I am so excited to finally bring the return of the Stephen King book haul. So it's been a while since I've done a book haul, as you may know, and I actually got these books like quite a while back, but I just kept forgetting, and then like life came up and stuff, but I'm finally doing it now, because I'm actually going to read a couple of these books soon, so I wanted to get the book haul done while I could. So yeah, anyway, it's great to be back, and also these videos get me a lot of views, so why would I not? All right, anyway, so the first book we have here is Danse Macabre, and so Danse Macabre is different from a lot of other Stephen King books because usually I review the books and I talk about the books, or in the recent case of Storm of the Century screenplays, but Danse Macabre is actually a essay on horror, like about the history of horror and like the future of it and stuff. And yeah, and it's nonfiction in case you couldn't tell, because if it's an essay, obviously. But anyway, so basically the description for Danse Macabre goes as follows. The author, whose boundless imagination and storytelling powers have redefined the horror genre. From 1974's Carrie to his new epic Under the Dome, reflects on the very nature of terror. What scares us and why, in films, both cheesy and choice, television and radio, and, of course, the horror novel past and present. So yeah, basically, as I said, Danse Macabre is just kind of like a history of horror until like he got in the game and then like changed everything. And then I did notice that it said his new epic was Under the Dome, and Under the Dome came out in 2009, so this was like a 2009 or maybe even 2010 re-release of it. But yeah, so and this book came out quite a bit before 2009, but we will get into that in the bookshelf part. But yeah, anyway, that is Danse Macabre, and I'm super excited to read it. So the second book we have here is actually one that everybody really seems to like, and it is called Revival. Yes, I know I have not read Revival, and I'm sure that you will all make me feel sorry about it. To which I apologize. I have not read Revival yet, but I will. I will eventually. I'm coming to that. We'll get to that soon. But anyway, so Revival, I keep hearing great things about it. I've heard it's like the best like Stephen King book of like the 2010s. I've heard that it's the best book he's written like all century. It's like I keep hearing nothing but great things about Revival. And the plot for Revival goes as follows. The new minister came to Harlow, Maine, when Jamie Morton was a boy doing battle with his toy army men on the front lawn. The young Reverend Charles Jacobs and his beautiful wife brought new life to the local church and captivated their congregation. But with Jamie, he shares an obsession. A draw so powerful, it would have profound consequences 5 decades after the shattering tragedy that turned the preacher against God, and long after his final scathing sermon. Now Jamie, a nomadic rock guitarist hooked on heroin, meets Charles Jacobs again, and when their bond becomes a pact beyond even the devil's devising, Jamie discovers that Revival has many meanings. So that sounds really interesting. And I don't know what that dark secret is, and I don't know what happens in it at all, other than the fact that he's a rock guitarist, obviously, and it's about religion and stuff. But I have heard that this book has like a very dark and depressing ending, and it's like really messed up. And I'm someone who's read a lot of Stephen King. If you watch my channel, you would know that I read a lot of Stephen King, and I've read quite a few Stephen King endings that are very dark and disturbing. So it just makes me wonder, if this is considered to be one of the darkest, what is it, you know? It's like, what is it? But I will find that out soon enough when I read this. So that's Revival, and I'm super excited to read this. Alright, so the third book we have over here is actually not one that people particularly enjoy, but it's a Stephen King book nonetheless, so I have to read it. But it is Sleeping Beauties, co-written by him and his son, Owen King. And so, yeah, I've not heard great things about this. I've heard that it's just not very good. I've heard that it's misogynistic towards women. I've heard that it, like, gets good in, like, the first half and then it just falls off in the second half, which is like a Stephen King usual. But anyway, so the plot for Sleeping Beauties goes as follows. In a future so real and near it might be now, a mysterious pandemic is causing women everywhere to suddenly go to sleep, shrouded in a cocoon like gauze. Any attempt to awaken them is met with a reaction of feral, spectacular violence. And while they sleep, the women go to another place, a better place, where harmony prevails and conflict is rare. But there is only one, the enigmatic Eve Black, who is immune to the blessing or curse of the sleeping disease. Is Eve a medical anomaly to be studied, or a demon that must be slain? Meanwhile, the men, abandoned, left to their increasingly primal urges, are dividing into warring factions. Some of them want to kill Eve, and some want to save her, even as others rise up and exploit the chaos to wreak their own vengeance on new enemies in this brutal, suddenly all-male war. So, that sounds pretty interesting, and I'm very aware that an interesting premise doesn't automatically mean a great product and a great outcome, but this is certainly intriguing nonetheless, and I will get to reading this most likely in 2025. I actually have all the books for the rest of 2024 planned out. So yeah, Sleeping Beauties may not be good, but I'm certainly intrigued, and yeah, so I will read this and give my thoughts when I do. Alright, and so the last book here is Elevation. And so, of course, as you can see by the size of my hand versus the book, this is a very small book. Very small book. And, I mean, what I basically know about Elevation is that it's kind of like Thinner, but worse. Like, if you remember in Thinner, it was about a guy who was constantly losing weight. And this is kind of like that, but it's worse. So, basically, it goes as follows. Castle Rock is a small town where word gets around quickly. That's why Scott Carey wants to confide only in his friend Dr. Bob Ellis about his strange condition. He's losing weight without getting thinner, and the scales register the same whether he is in his clothes or out of them, no matter how heavy they are. Scott also has new neighbors who have opened a fine dining experience in town, although it's an experience being shunned by the locals. Deidre McComb and her wife Missy Donaldson don't exactly conform to a lifestyle the community approves of. And now Scott seems trapped in a feud with the couple over their dogs dropping their business on his lawn. Missy may be warm and friendly, but Deidre is as cold as ice. As the town prepares for its annual Thanksgiving 12K run, Scott begins to understand the prejudices that women face and tries to help. Unlikely alliances form, and the mystery of Scott's affliction brings out the best in people who have indulged the worst in themselves and others. So yeah, that's Elevation. As you can see with the weight thing, it's kind of like Thinner, but worse. And I've already read Thinner, and I actually liked Thinner, so go see that video if you haven't. But I don't know how Elevation goes. I've heard that it's not particularly good, like a lot of modern-day Stephen King books. But it's certainly interesting, and since it's similar-ish to Thinner, I think I might enjoy it. But, of course, I will review that and give my thoughts when I do. But anyway, so those are the 4 books that we have today, and let's go put them on the bookshelf. Alrighty guys, I put the books back on the bookshelf, but before I show them to you, I kind of want to address a little bit of a mistake I made in the past. So if you remember from last videos, I put the stand right behind Rage right there, which is that giant Bachman Books one, and then Night Shift was after it. But upon doing some research, I actually found out that Night Shift came out a couple months before the stand, so I decided to fix that, and yeah, so now we can actually look at the books, but I just wanted to correct that. Alright, but here's the first book we have. It is Dance Macabre, and this one came out in 1981, so it is in between Roadwork, which was also in 1981, and Cujo, which was also in 1981. So, 3 books in 1981, so there you go. And now for the next one, we have to go all the way down here. So, of course, here we have Revival, and it came out in late 2014, so it is in between Mr. Mercedes, which was earlier in 2014, and between Finders Keepers, which was 2015. Alright, and then moving on right over to this next one, here we have The Outsider, no, not The Outsider, I'm sorry, Sleeping Beauties. And, of course, Sleeping Beauties was released in 2017, so it is in between Gwendy's Button Box, which is the first in the Gwendy trilogy, in earlier 2017, and then The Outsider in 2018. Sorry for that mix-up. Anyway, speaking of 2018, here we have Elevation, which is, of course, the last one we took a look at, and it was, of course, released in 2018, so it is in between The Outsider, which was 2018, and The Institute, which was 2019. But, yeah, those are all the books. So, let's go wrap this video up. But, yeah, guys, that is it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It felt so good to come back to book hauls because I enjoy them. You enjoy them as my view count, as of course, my view count suggests. And, yeah, so, I mean, thank you to every single one of you guys who have found my channel and subscribed through those book hauls. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this far. Be sure to like the video if you haven't, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. But anyway, yeah, that is all the time that I have for you today. But I will see you guys next time.